Welcome back to Coaching the Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your coach this evening. So today we're going to be having our final workshop, and you might be wondering why the final workshop, right? We're supposed to be workshop Wednesdays. And as much as I do enjoy doing the workshops and as much as I want to continue the workshops, Wednesdays are going to be transitioned to something that is even much more needed than a workshop. And of course, I'm going to be able to help people out with questions, comments, concerns, all that. And I don't necessarily need a workshop to do that. I can do that on Mondays, I can do that on Fridays. But for Wednesdays, we're going to create a new type of trend, the work we need to do. That's what's going to be on Wednesdays now. Because we have a lot of work to do, from our own growth to what the world, society needs for us to do. We have a lot of work to do. And we're going to spend Wednesdays identifying what work needs to be done. Because when I started my business, I wanted to create and make a difference in the minds of people, in the minds of children and adults. Didn't matter age, but I saw the limiting beliefs from the school system, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a change. And the best way I've found to make that change is to tackle it head on from an outside source. Because initially I thought becoming a teacher was going to be the number one way I would take away limiting beliefs from the school system, from the classroom. I was wrong. And it goes a little bit of me not understanding how powerful the school system is, how powerful the curriculum would be. And for years, I've tried to make a difference, and I have with the students that I interacted with. But what about the students that I will never see? Those students who will never come into my classroom because I was in a certain district? Well, how about if I just allowed other teachers to do their job? Every child goes to school, and since everyone's doing their job, everyone's being efficient and being a positive leader, positive teacher, all the students should follow suit. If that was the case, why are all our limiting beliefs created when we're younger? If we had teachers who were doing the right thing, you would think that the limiting beliefs would just go away. But it wasn't necessarily 100% the teacher's fault, because they have their hands tied already. Teachers are going to be busy with curriculum, standards, and they're going to have their own things that they have to deal with, i.e., general life. So even though a teacher is sacrificing their life for the upbringing of the next generation, I found a different way to do it. I found a more efficient way to do it. I can create a company, programs to help mentor young minds to get out of limiting beliefs. And I have done that over the years. And I've seen firsthand the type of children I help create by molding them, by painting the type of artwork I want on their canvas. And it's not saying that they can't paint their own picture. I am just not going to allow them to have any type of depictions that limit them, that show a fracture in who they are. Because when you're young, that is when you're most susceptible for these limiting type of beliefs. And my goal is to make sure those limiting type of beliefs don't reside in your life longer than they need to be there. So today's workshop is going to be tackling what is limiting beliefs, what are limiting beliefs, and we're going to get into that. But before I do, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that videos like. And if you are watching on a podcast, then of course you won't see any visuals, but I will break it down exactly how it needs to be broken down so you don't need to see any type of visuals. The limiting beliefs workshop is going to be addressing, well, what are limiting beliefs? Now, a limiting belief is going to be an idea that limits how you see a situation, a person, or something in general. Limiting beliefs are going to be assumptions or perceptions that you learned, very important, learned or adopted about yourself and about the way the world works. These assumptions don't tell you much about who you truly are because they're just something you think about. What if? But these are going to be self-limiting because in some way, they're going to hold you back from achieving what you are capable of achieving. Limiting beliefs are going to be core for the American or Western type of society. If we look at bullying, what does bullying cause? Limiting beliefs. Because your bully is going to be saying things about you. And eventually, they might permeate your shell. They might break through and hurt your feelings. You might have heard the saying, I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounces off me and sticks right back to you. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. That is a nice facade to make us feel better, but it's so far from the truth. Words hurt. Words mean something. When we have limiting beliefs, there can be hundreds, thousands of limiting beliefs that we would have to understand that are happening in our life. And most of the time, we're not going to be able to see them by ourselves unless you're trained to see those type of limiting beliefs. So when someone says, I'm too old, I can't do that, they have no idea that they're just reciting a limiting belief. Now, of course, you might be 45, you might have had a knee surgery. It might make sense not to do a cartwheel. But to say you're not young enough, you're not a kid anymore, that limits you. Because you're as old as you want to be. You're as young as you need to be. How about one of these ones? I find this a lot for my career people. They say, I'm not smart enough. I'm not educated enough. I'm afraid of trying and falling or failing. Well, why are you not smart enough? Who told you were dumb? Who told you didn't have enough smarts or wits or wisdom to get the job done? That's important to understand. Most of the times, we are the people who are going to be setting our own limiting beliefs, self-limiting beliefs. And whether you think you don't have enough money, you don't have enough success, they're all limiting beliefs. When we have limiting beliefs, they're created from an external message typically. Typically, someone's going to say, you can't do it. You're not smart enough. You're not tall enough. You're not big enough. Why do you think kids come running to parents and they're crying and they said I can't play with them because I'm not 5 years old yet? Okay. Then we have our internal messages, our internal fear. I'm afraid. I don't want to do it because if I do it, I could fail. And then we have our direct feedback. And that's going to be our excuse, our opportunity to rationalize what we do and what we don't do. So, of course, if you couldn't do something, you just kind of shove it off. You say, I knew I couldn't do it. I told you I couldn't do it. I don't know why you made me do it. Now, those lead to limiting beliefs, and you have to overcome that type of obstacle. My yoga teacher told me one of the quotes I hold true to this day. The biggest wall we'll ever climb in our life is in our mind, and we put it there. And those are going to be our limiting beliefs. So we need to start to realize, okay, well, how do I get away from thinking on these limiting beliefs? How do I get away from thinking negatively and to be more positive, to look at my potential, to look at what I'm capable of accomplishing, what I'm capable of doing? And if we follow the same thing, instead of having naysayers in our lives, we have coaches and mentors, people who are going to lift us up, people who are going to tell us, well, if we don't know, let's figure it out. If we can't do it, let's try to get it done together. And that internal message is going to start to shift to saying, I can, I will, I must. I want to accomplish this for me. I want to accomplish this for someone else, maybe. But the same message is going to be, I'm going to do it. Now, whether you succeed or if you do not succeed, if you operate under a positive notion for getting rid of your limiting beliefs, you're going to learn how to overcome them. You're going to say, okay, well, the reason why I didn't succeed was because I didn't put enough effort here. How can I improve? How can I be better? How can I become better? That way of thinking is going to start to lead to potential. But before we do that, we do have to understand, what is the makeup? How are we structured? Now, if you are a long-time listener, thank you. You probably already heard from age 1 to 7 or 0 to 7, a child is going to be most susceptible to influence. So when we look at this pyramid, and the pyramid are going to have different levels, and the bottom level, the foundation, is going to be our environment. How we grow up. What do we see? For example, my environment growing up, I grew up in the hood, in the ghettos. I saw violence, I saw drugs, guns, but I also saw other factors, and I'm going to break that down a little bit later. Behaviors from the people around me. I was able to figure out what type of skills and capabilities that the hood required me to have, beliefs and values. And then eventually I reached my identity, who I was going to become, who I thought of myself. A child has to go through this phase, this structure. So maybe they're living in an affluent part of town with affluent parents, going to private schools. That's going to create a different type of structure for them. They're going to have a different environment, different behavior. They're going to learn different skills and have different capabilities than someone who doesn't have what they have. Now, since they're going to be operating on things they have, what they believe, their values is going to be appropriate more for their own life and how their life is being structured. And eventually, that's who they identify when they grow up. Are they a leader? Are they a follower? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they an alcoholic? Can they change their life? All of that is going to play a role. And for people who are in an environment that is less than ideal, it doesn't mean that you have to have an identity that is going to be anything less than what you portray for yourself. But we have to get there. When we look at the origin of limiting beliefs, most limiting beliefs are going to be developed during our childhood. We have to understand that our brain from 0 to 7 is operating under a certain type of wavelength. Dr. Bruce Lipton says that it's going to be similar to a hypnotic state. And a hypnotic state is going to be a state where you're most acceptable for words, for change. You have to understand that now, if we're in a hypnotic state, we are like sponges. We take whatever is given to us. That's why sometimes you might see people get hypnotized when they're trying to quit smoking or quit drinking. Highly susceptible to change, to soak up whatever is told to them. And now the brain is recording good habits or bad habits, same thing with emotions or behaviors, during this hypnotic type of growth. So from age 1 to 7, we understand that if a child is going to be most acceptable to change, to molding, why don't we mold them during this time the best we can? Most people don't even realize from age 1 to 7 or 0 to 7, that's when you should be an A+ adult, an A+ parent. And as soon as 7 hits or 8 hits, you can start to change the way you think, because then you can see where they are and you can start to adjust them rather than show them and teach them. It's a little bit different. And as a teacher, you have to understand where they are in their childhood development, because the limiting beliefs that they have are just going to be opinions that they believe. And it's going to be up to us to shoot down any type of limiting beliefs that they hold that they don't need. Because for those type of people who are going to have those type of limiting beliefs, we just have to show them that having these limiting beliefs are not what we want. And when I was a coach for children, teaching them how to swim, I did not hesitate. I told them exactly what I wanted, how I wanted it done, and I wanted it done then and there. And they would always hit me with maybe procrastination, or they would overthink something and they'll be anxious. And I crushed that way of thinking. They thought exactly how I wanted them to think. They were unstoppable. That is what I trained all of my swimmers, all of my young minds to think. That you are good enough. And there's nothing that can stop you. Limiting beliefs did not reside in my students. If they learned it from home, from mom, from another teacher, that's because they are still susceptible. I'm only one person. I needed to do something different. So again, when we look at this pyramid, no matter what, we have environment, behavior, skills and capabilities, beliefs, values, and then we look at who we become at the end of the day, at the end of 7 years. We need to start to structure ourselves to understanding. Just because my environment was bad doesn't mean I need to stay there. Just because I learned bad behaviors doesn't mean my behaviors need to continue to be bad. Just because I didn't learn the appropriate skills and I wasn't fully capable doesn't mean that I cannot learn the skills now and I cannot become capable. And if the beliefs and the values I hold don't serve me, it's time to get rid of them and replace them with beliefs and values that do. And then the identity, my self-portrayal, I'm going to start to realize who I was, who I am, and what I'm able to become. So getting rid of limiting beliefs is a little bit of trial and error almost. The reason I say trial and error is because you might be so far down where if I say something to you, it might not permeate all the way down quite yet. I might need to say things on different levels, different bases, and different structures for you to start to believe it. When we are young, there is a discrepancy in how often we're told no or we can't do something. And the ratio is backwards. So while growing up, you're going to hear, no, don't do that. You can't do that. About 148,000 times. For the sake of math, let's round up to 150. So 150,000 times, you are told that you can't do something. No, no good. But guess what? Every time you tell someone no, or you give them a negative to work with, it requires you to do 3 positives in order to abolish or to negate that negative. And guess how many yeses you get during childhood? You get a few thousand. About 7,000. So that is nowhere close to what you need. And then people wonder why they have limiting beliefs. This is why. You were told no, 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 and not enough yeses. And then if you were told too many yeses, now you're spoiled. There is a fine balance between the negatives and the positives. Now, some negatives are going to weigh more, and same thing with the positives, and you have to understand that. And if you don't, you can always email me. But you do have to understand the difference between a no and then hit them with the positive. Because if you're a teacher, especially, you should not be trying to tear anyone down without fixing what you've done. That means if you're going to tell someone no, get ready to put in the work to bring them back up. When we're trying to banish our limiting beliefs, we need to ask ourselves, is the belief true? This is going to be psychology 101. If someone is upset at someone, they believe someone is doing something, they have to ask themselves if this is true. Now they have to take some time to determine the source of their belief. Was it because they did something, they said something, they had a bad day at work? Doesn't matter. You have to figure out why, or that reason why that belief is there. Now we have to come up with a conclusion, a declaration almost, and say, you know what? I don't want to think this way anymore. Or you might say, you know what? I'm going to take action on my belief. And then from there, you're going to imagine being free from your belief. How do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel good? Positive, negative, whatever that feeling is. And then start to replace that belief that you were holding on to with a belief that's going to benefit you, that's going to help you, whether it be in your growth or just a better quality of life. And for that, you're going to have to find some evidence for this new belief, because up until now, you have been reinforcing a belief that maybe you don't really want or didn't really want. It just happened and you started to go down that path. But now you have a new belief you want to follow, and you have to get that belief on track. And then from there, it's going to be trial and error. You have to test yourself, and you have to see if this new belief is exactly what you want and everything that you wanted. And if it is, great, keep going. If it's not, adjust, pivot. For people who are going to be struggling with their limiting beliefs, you don't have to go through this alone. One of the best things that you can do is to find a coach, to find someone that can help you get to where you want to be. If you were interested in getting some more resources, you can always head over to my website, revenconcepts.com. Plenty of blogs, videos on limiting beliefs that you can read and watch for you to be in a better position or better place. For anyone who wants to work with me, you can also go to the website and sign up, or you can always email me at michael@revenconcepts.com. So the limiting workshop is going to be there to determine where you are currently. Do you have limiting beliefs? Most people do. Most people have some type of limiting beliefs, and that could stem from confidence. It could stem from childhood. It could stem from workplace, just being adults, from friends, peers. And it's going to be difficult for people to get out of that way of thinking. My recommendation for those type of people who are stuck is to get a coach. That would be the easiest way for you to get out most efficiently, effectively, and safely. Because if you have a limiting belief, it's going to weigh you down. You can get it out by yourself. I'm not saying it's impossible. But when you start to say something to yourself, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I don't have the right degree. I don't have a good paying job. I don't have enough money. Those limiting beliefs are going to keep you where you are longer. And what I do is I help you get to where you want to be quicker. There's a big difference between holding on to limiting beliefs and saying, I don't want these limiting beliefs anymore. And if you know my company, I'm going to play a quick intro, outro, and I'm going to show you what the company is, right? Why is it called Reven? Now, it is Reven. And if you spell it backwards, it spells Never. Never. The concept of turning never around. The concept of turning impossible to possible. The concept of turning can't to can. Turning what we were taught around. So society, the school system, parents, environment, whatever, has trained us to believe a certain way, to think a certain way. And most of the time, that is not going to be conducive to the life that we want to hold, to have, to live. So the people who are going to be operating under a limiting type of mindset, they are going to be missing out on so much more. Because I ask myself sometimes, why do 98% of people don't succeed great things in their life? And I'm not saying that the 98% of people aren't happy and they're not doing things and it's only talking about monetary. But I want to talk about monetary because it's not about reaching great wealth, monetary wealth in life. It's not about that. It's about the ability to be able to achieve it. Now, if you say, I can achieve great wealth in my life, but I choose to live a more pragmatic life where life is slow, but I'm able to feel it more deeply than if I was in the top 2%. Now you made a choice because most people don't even get a chance to make that choice. Most people are just living life, whatever comes their way. So the people who are trying to figure out how are they going to pay their rent, their mortgage, their grocery bills, those people have limiting beliefs. There's a scarcity there. I help people get out of that way of thinking, out of that scarcity. And if you have had teachers in the past or friends or family, and they told you that you'll never surmount to anything, that you're not good enough, that you'll always be a loser. You have to get out of that negativity. Find a coach, find a reason, work through it, journal, speak to someone, and get out of the limiting beliefs that don't serve you. Because my goal is to help people be in a better place than they are, to show people that it's possible. And the limiting beliefs that people were given from parents, from teachers, some accidental, can be reversed. Now, it's easier just to get someone, a child, and mold them exactly how you want to mold them. That's easy. But we still have outside stimulus that we have to pay attention to. It is easier to mold something that's not broken than something that is. So if you're broken, we have work to do. If you have a child and you want to figure out ways that you can mold them to a better person, stay tuned. We're going to be talking about that. If you haven't, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that videos like. I will see everyone again on Friday for our podcast. Until then, everyone take care.